I want to talk about hospice for a minute. Lee Phillips here, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and tell other folks about it. But also send us your tips. We want to build a big database of this is how I've handled this situation with my ALS patient. Hospice, they said, as soon as we started on this venture 5.5 years ago, they said, oh, the biggest mistake you make is not getting hospice involved early enough. Well, we had hospice in, we had 3 or 4 of them, and they're like sharks swimming around waiting for blood in the water, in my opinion. The biggest hospital in town sent their head of their hospice out to us, and we'd just completed the ramp so that Christy could get in and out of the house. We had to make a new door into the house and lay out a ramp. Our house is on a steep hill, and we put the door up at the top where it was basically on ground level. On one side of the house it's 25 feet to the ground, and on the other side it's only like 2 feet. There wasn't a door up here, so we put a wall in. Anyway, we'd done the ramp and everything, and the big hospice lady came and she interviewed us to make sure we're needing hospice. And of course you need hospice because they want to take care of you. And she looked at me and said, well, why did you go to all the expense of the ramp? Why didn't you just get one of those things that takes the guy up and down the stairs? We have stairs in our house to get into it. Once we're on the main floor, we've got everything on the main floor. Christy could run around in her wheelchair. But I looked at her and I said, well, how do you hold a dead body on the chair? And she said, well, you can strap it on. And I said, well, how do you get a dead body on the chair? And she looked at me where this lady had no clue what ALS is. In ALS, you end up with a dead body and a perfect mind. And that's a bad situation to be in. Christy was always positive. We always did well. She continued to work on her genealogy. She continued to do everything. We never had hospice in. And I don't think it was a mistake. She always had a PICC line because she got the IVIG, and we had the PICC line for over 4 years, the same PICC line, which is unheard of. She had the feeding tube. She had the ventilator. If you call hospice, basically they come in, they take away the PICC line, they take away the feeding tube, they take away the ventilator, and they make you comfortable. They give you enough morphine that you don't know what's going on, and they basically knock you off. And I'm going to run into a lot of problems with hospice people by saying all of this, but I can't see a lot of difference between that and assisted suicide. The problem with hospice is, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, and I'm sure I'll hear back from somebody that, that I'm lying, but basically hospice is given, I think it's about $12,000. And they have that much for Medicare to take care of the individual. If the individual happens to die in 2 weeks, they win. If they happen to go 6 months, they lose. So they have a real incentive to make sure that you're on your last legs and that they help you out the door. With Christy, we didn't have hospice. She just basically died in her sleep. It was a little interesting because we had the family all in, and that's probably another YouTube. I ought to talk about that. But we had the family in, and after the family had been in and said their goodbyes to Christy when she was dead, I called the mortuary. We'd prepaid the mortuary plan, which is an excellent idea, by the way. And they said, well, was hospice there? And I said, no. And they said, well, has she been seen by a doctor in the last 60 days? And I said, no. We only go to the ALS clinic quarterly. And we were just going to go the week after she died. And so they said, well, we can't touch the body because hospice wasn't there. You have to call the police. So, and they have to clear the body before the mortuary can come and get it. Well, that was a little interesting. So I called the lady on the normal line and got a hold of her. And she says, oh yes, we'll send somebody up. We'll send you some help right away. In a minute, here comes the ambulance and the fire truck. Christy's been dead for like 4 hours now, and the EMTs come running in with their suitcase and slap electrodes all over, and I said, she's kind of dead. The blood's starting to pool. Oh, well, we got to prove that she's really dead. So they electronicked her up and didn't get anything and finally said, yep, she's dead. In the meantime, a full 5 cop cars show up. I mean, the whole street in front of our house is blocked off. Then 2 detective cars came. The animal catcher, the dog catcher, finally did come too. But they finally admitted that they were training people. But it took them another almost 3 hours to say, yep, she died a natural death. And we had to get a doctor who would do the death certificate. And we couldn't get this doctor. We couldn't get that doctor. Finally, we called a neighbor, and he says, oh yeah, I'll come sign the death certificate. So actually he didn't have to come, but he had to agree that he would sign it. So it was quite a process. Hospice would have alleviated all that process. But on the other hand, we never needed them. Had she been panicked on not being able to get air, the university had given us the lorazepam. It's not
Lorazepam.
Lorazepam, thank you. The Ativan, or the very strong sedative, and then morphine, and they'd said, give her the morphine and the strong sedative and basically put her to sleep when she was air-starved. Thank goodness Christy never went air-starved. She just fell asleep and died. So we were very blessed. But my opinion of hospice wasn't too favorable, and they continued over the next 4 years to come and visit us. We had multiple groups come. There's a lot of money in it for them, and they want to do it. But I'm not sure I wanted them to do it, and we didn't need them.